Oh, can you hear me now? Hey, look at that. It says low battery on my pack, so good thing I don't have to say much. All right, there's a few more folks coming in, which is good because everybody sat in the back. I'm not referring to the fine arts at all. All right, a few more. All right, everybody, so welcome. Let's get started. Reverend Corcea will be up here in a moment. He has a slideshow. He has a video to show us a little bit about Bucharest. And so since that involves technology, please be patient with us, and hopefully we have it all set up right. And he's going to tell us now a bit about himself, his work, and all the things surrounding that. So, Reverend Corcea.
Thank you for coming back and for being here and for having me here so that I could share with you some things about Romania, my home country, and also about our church planting work there. So here you see on the map, Romania is in Eastern Europe, but maybe you don't know very much about Romania because it's not a very well-known country. It's far away, and we don't know, in Romania we don't know much about other parts of the world. But when you hear the word Romania, there might be some things that would come to your mind. What comes to your mind when you hear about Romania? Maybe this comes to mind. Oh, I went back to 2 slides. Yeah, maybe this comes to mind. Castles in Transylvania, Dracula, he's also from Transylvania. Villages with sheep and farmers using ancient technology to farm the land. And we do have some of this. We do have some castles from the medieval age. We do have some villages, and I guess there still are some farmers who work the field that way. We don't really have Dracula, so he's not around anymore. It's safe to visit, but this character was based on a very harsh medieval ruler. So there is some truth to the story. He was not a vampire, just a very bloody ruler. What comes to mind when you hear about Romania? Maybe our communist past. We were a communist country for 40 years. We had a revolution in 1989. More than 1,000 people died during that revolution, and that regime ended. But there's still some effects of communism in our country. There are some scars that we still feel every day in our society. So communism has not been good for us. I understand here in America, many young people started liking communism. Yeah, for us, it did not end up well. People lived in hunger, in poverty. They didn't have enough heating, electricity. The last few years were really bad, and that pushed people towards being involved in the revolution. So we do have some medieval things, and we do have some rural areas, and we do have these ugly gray high-rises from the communist time. But Romania and Bucharest, our city, our capital where we live in, has moved on. We still have some of that past, but we've also moved on and have made some progress. So I have a short video that I would like to show you, just so that you see different places, different aspects of life in Bucharest. able to see a few places in Bucharest. This was obviously filmed before COVID, so everyone was in the city. People enjoy walking through the city, going to restaurants. We have a lot of parks. People who live downtown, they usually use public transportation, not cars. And it has some nice parts, some not so nice parts, but we enjoy living there. My wife and I moved there in 2010, and then in 2013 I started attending a seminary here in the US, and we went back to this city to plant a church in Bucharest. So Bucharest is the capital city of Romania. It's located in the south. It's just an 8-hour drive from Istanbul, so it's pretty close to Turkey and to Greece. We are also pretty close to Ukraine, where sadly it seems that we might get a military conflict soon. So we are in this place that we're close both to the Turkish people, to the Russians, and in the past most of our territory was part of the Ottoman Empire, so for hundreds of years we had to deal with the Muslim rulers, with the Ottomans. Bucharest is the 10th largest city in in Europe. So it's not the largest city, but still one of the capital cities in Europe, and it has a pretty large population of over 2 million people. And of these 2 million people, 97% are Eastern Orthodox. 1% are evangelicals, 1% atheists, and 1% other. We have some Chinese people, some Turkish people living in Bucharest. So 97% are Eastern Orthodox. Most of them are nominal. They don't believe the Eastern Orthodox doctrine. If you talk to them about the creed, just like the basic doctrine of Christianity, without going into the doctrine of justification or other things, just like basic articles of the creed, they don't believe that. They don't believe the Bible is true. They don't believe Christianity. Only 3.5% of people in Bucharest attend church on Sunday. So I think that's pretty low. And you see here 1% evangelicals. The majority of them are Seventh-day Adventists, which I don't really know if it's evangelical or what that is. That's just something very weird, but yeah, I had to put them somewhere. So yeah, they're Seventh-day Adventists. They're the majority of non-Eastern Orthodox churches in Bucharest. So it's looking pretty bad, both on the Eastern Orthodox side, because they're not even Eastern Orthodox. At least if they were Eastern Orthodox, they believe that Jesus was raised from the dead. They don't. And with evangelicals, yeah, Seventh-day Adventists. So it's looking pretty bad. There are 200 Eastern Orthodox churches in Bucharest. Most of them are small to medium size. Most of them would have under 100 people on Sunday. And those are the churches for 2 million people. These 200 churches correspond to 2 million people. So very few people attend church. And of course, I'm referring to the time before restrictions, because now with the restrictions, we had some difficulties with in-person worship. But generally, even without the pandemic, very few people attend church. Being the capital city, we also have a lot of students. We have 16 universities and 300,000 students. So there's also an opportunity there, and we've had meetings with students, and we've had students attend our worship services. We had students, a couple of them became members. So that's something we also keep in mind, because it is a university center. And we have one Reformed church plant that we have been working on planting since 2016. And here you can see the church building that we are renting from a mainline Lutheran church. There's a mainline Hungarian Lutheran church that lets us rent the church building, and that's the place where we currently worship. But I would like to take a step back and speak a little bit about our mission, how we got started, how we started being involved in this mission work. So from 2005 to 2012, I have been in a process of becoming reformed. In 2010, I married Lydia, my wife, and we completed this process together. I was raised in an Eastern Orthodox family. Then my parents became evangelical, so I spent also a few years in an evangelical church, where I started reading Reformed books because someone, a Romanian evangelical, translated Calvin's Institutes into Romanian, and he wrote like 100 pages forward against Calvin and writing against Calvin's Institutes, and he added that to the Institutes, but he published the Institutes, so I was able to read Calvin's Institutes and other books. And then in my senior year of high school, I was part of a student exchange program where I spent some time with a Dutch family in the Netherlands, went there, spent some time in a Reformed high school in the Netherlands. So it was the first time I was able to meet and see and experience, meet Reformed people in person, because up to that point I just read about the Reformed Church, and there was no Reformed Church that I could attend. After that, I came back to Romania. I started college. I married my wife Lydia, but there was no Reformed Church, so we kept wanting to have a Reformed church in our city. We met also a few other people who were interested in the same thing, so that's how we started writing to Reformed churches in Europe, asking guidance, asking how can we have also a Reformed church also in our city. So that's how we met Reverend Andrea Ferrari, who is the URC missionary in Italy, and he was a missionary in Milan at that time, and we got in touch with him, and he and the consistory in Milan, and their overseeing consistory in California, advised that I should come to seminary here in the U.S. and then go back to plant a church. So that's what I did from 2013 to 2016. I attended Westminster Seminary, California, became a member of Christ URC Santee, and after graduating from seminary, I was ordained in 2016, and I went back to Romania to start the church planting work in Bucharest. So in 2016, we started the church planting work. There we rented a small meeting place downtown Bucharest. We started holding worship services. We started with very few people, and we're still very small, but over the years we see that the church plant is growing, and every year we have one new family, one new person joining, new visitors. So now on a regular Sunday, when there's no one sick of COVID or nothing like that happening, we have about 20 people, members and visitors who attend. So it is slow, and it is like this everywhere in Europe, because generally in Europe there's far less people attending any church. So society is secularized, and that's why Reformed church planting in Europe is very slow. We've had ups and downs, but generally we are encouraged to see that the church plant seems to be growing and seems to be going in the right direction. We're happy that we were able to move out of this meeting place at the end of 2019, before the pandemic, because it was a small place, and with all the distancing requirements, we would not have been able to have in-person worship for 2 years. Because still, there are still some distancing requirements. So, yeah, in the Lord's providence, that was a great blessing. We were outgrowing the place. We were having more visitors, and that's why we needed to move. But it was also a blessing that we had a proper meeting place before the pandemic. So, what are the challenges that we face in this church planting work? The first challenge is Eastern Orthodoxy. And Eastern Orthodoxy is a challenge not because all those 97% believe Eastern Orthodoxy. It is a challenge because it has influenced the culture. So, although most people don't believe what happens there, they are still taught to be fearful of anything that's not Eastern Orthodox. So the church tolerates unbelievers. The church gives false hope to unbelievers because those people don't believe that Christianity is true, but just in case it is true, they got all the rituals, they have the assurance for the priests. So they don't believe, but just in case they would need something at the end, if there is a judgment, they're all set with the Eastern Orthodox Church. So they're unbelievers, but culturally they've been taught to stick to Eastern Orthodoxy and to consider everything else a different religion. So they would not consider us a different denomination of the same religion, Christianity, but they would see us as a different religion, and they tend to see anything that's not Eastern Orthodox, they tend to see it as a cult. When they hear of someone being a pastor, what they have in mind is like people here who you have some people around the U.S. who were cult leaders and ended up killing people or brainwashing people or I don't know, things like that happen. So that's what Eastern Orthodox people have in mind when they hear the word pastor. So we deal with this barrier. There's an initial barrier in reaching out to people, and we have to get over that. Another challenge is our communist past, because communism has made people cynical with respect to religion. Many people don't believe and are atheistic and agnostic because of their communist past, and most of the people in the older generations, in the urban areas, they tend to be heavily influenced by communism. So the older generations in Romania are more conservative, but conservative in Romania means being a communist and being taught in school atheism and all that. So it is very difficult to get to the older generation. Very difficult. There's besides the Eastern Orthodox barrier, there's also the communist barrier. So most people that have been attending our church plant have been younger people. So most of them are under 50. We have also a couple older, but the older generation is influenced by communism. And another challenge we have is just the capitalist dream that people have been living in the last 30 years. So the younger generations, they got their education and they have their careers and they work for big companies in Bucharest, and this requires all of their energy, all of their life, and much of their hope and confidence in life comes from this. So of course this is not special, it's everywhere. It's not just particular to Bucharest, but it is especially the case in Bucharest, where most corporations in Romania are based. So we have lots of young professionals who live that kind of life. And another challenge we have is a certain dynamic that's particular to Bucharest in Romania. Bucharest is the largest city. It has some nice parts, but it's not really the beautiful part of Romania. It's not the place where you really want to spend time because it's busy. There's an industrial part of the city, and it has been impacted more by communism because it was the capital. So the communists destroyed more of the older buildings to make those big communist buildings. So it's not so nice. So many people on weekends, they go to other places in Romania. They have weekend trips to other cities. So this makes it difficult sometimes to reach out to people on weekends for the Lord they worship, because many people are away, and also some of our visitors, some of our church members, they're also part of this culture. So it's a difficulty we are dealing with. So how do we try to overcome these difficulties, these challenges? How are we working? How are we doing this church planting ministry? How are we getting the gospel out? Well, the first thing we do is we have the worship services on Sunday, and here you see our church building with some people outside. Sometimes we have to wait for the Hungarian Lutheran service to end before we can go in. And we can see here a picture from the pandemic with all the distancing that's required. But now, since a few months ago, we are able again to eat at church. So after the service, we have a meal together, and that's also a good time to discuss more things and to socialize, to get to know people better, especially visitors that we meet for the first time and people that are new. So we enjoy having fellowship. Then we are also working on translating and publishing Reformed books. We translated several books that would introduce people to the Reformed faith. So there's Reformation Sketches by Dr. Godfrey there, Sacred Bond, a book published by Reformed Fellowship on Covenant Theology, Core Christianity by Dr. Horton, the Canons of Dort, the Catechism, and we've also translated and published last year a book about Cyril Lucaris, who was a bishop of Constantinople, and he was influenced by the Reformation. There was a missionary from the Reformed Church of Geneva that was actually sent to help him in reforming the Eastern Orthodox Church. He wrote a confession that's pretty Calvinistic, but he ended up being killed. Not because of the Muslim rulers, but because the French Catholic people, the French ambassadors and the Roman Catholic Church was scared of having the whole Eastern Church turning Protestant, so they were very heavily influenced in the politics in Constantinople. So he died, but it's a great book that we translated. It's written by a Reformed theologian from Greece. So we try to translate and publish these books that would help people to discover Reformed theology. Sometimes Eastern Orthodox people are reluctant to having conversations about theology, about religion, because they are scared. I'm a cult leader that I want to brainwash them, but if you give them a book, or if they discover a book, then on their own, they are more open to read a book or to watch a sermon on YouTube that they feel they discovered. Another thing that we started doing is having studies and conferences. So we had in 2019 Dr. Horton for a conference, and we hope to do another conference this year on Christian ethics. So we hope to have several different speakers. And it was also a good time to create a more neutral event in another place, not at the church, on another day, not on a Sunday, where Eastern Orthodox and some other evangelicals would feel more comfortable in attending. We're also posting all the sermons online on YouTube, so that's been one of the main ways that people learn about our church plant, and we get new visitors. And we realize that it takes people several months of watching the sermons before they actually come and visit the first time. So we when we see sermons being watched, we hope that the word of God that they hear in the sermons would produce fruit and people would start attending, and that is happening. It's just it's happening a little bit slowly. Another great opportunity we've had in the past 2 years was that I was invited on a TV show in Romania. There's a weekly TV show. It's a live 2-hour TV show where pastors and priests meet to discuss theology, religion, cultural issues. A couple of years ago, they wanted to do a show on predestination, and they realized that everyone was against predestination, so the show was not entertaining. It was not interesting because they were just arguing against predestination, and there was no one to defend predestination, so they invited me. After that, they kept inviting me back once a month, twice a month, and recently I've been there every week. So it was a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity because there are tens of thousands of people who watch the TV show every week. So we had new visitors come to the church, many people contacting me, and also building some relationships with Eastern Orthodox priests and professors in Bucharest that are part of the show. So yeah, we're thankful for this new opportunity. It's also a free advertising on TV. So yeah, we're thankful for that. We also try to organize social events, to fellowship, to meet for barbecue and going out in parks and going out together at a restaurant so that we can know each other better, but also so that we can create a place where other relatives, other friends can be invited, and we can meet them, they can meet us, and they can realize that we are not a cult, we're just regular people who actually believe that Christianity is true. So with COVID it was more difficult, but now we've been starting doing this again. So it's something that we're looking forward to this year. Hopefully the pandemic will end. Our medium to long-term goals would be we're seeking contacts for future church plants. There are 2 or 3 families in another city who have been following us, watching the sermons. We've been in contact with them, and they seem to be interested to become another core group, maybe sometime this year, but that's something that a second missionary should probably do. So we are also hoping that there would be a second missionary coming to Romania. We're also building regional cooperation with other Reformed church planters in Europe. So we have an annual retreat in Romania. We had this year we had 14 church planters from Germany, Italy, Turkey, Hungary meeting there, and we've fellowship. We talked about our difficulties, trying to brainstorm ideas. So it is an annual retreat that we are organizing in Romania, and it was every year it was a great blessing because we are so far away from other Reformed churches. Here you have several Reformed churches in the Grand Rapids area, and the ministers can sometimes meet, but for us it is more difficult. So it's a great blessing to be able to get together once a year with other Reformed church planters who have a similar experience. And I've also been encouraged to get in touch with some mainline Reformed pastors in Transylvania. There's a Hungarian Reformed church, Hungarian-speaking Reformed church there. It's pretty liberal, but there are some more conservative people there. So I've been invited to preach in one of their churches. The pastor there kind of got into trouble after that, but yeah, I hope to build relationships with them. I'm in contact with them, and it would be great if there would be a renewal movement within that mainline denomination. So as you think about Romania, as you remember us there, as you see maybe a newsletter, a trumpet in the future, I ask you to remember also these efforts, these projects that we have, and I would ask you to pray for us, pray for me, so that I would continue to preach the word diligently, so that we would not be discouraged by the ups and downs that we experience sometimes. I will ask you to pray also for the growth of our church plant, for the growth in maturity of our church members, and also for the growth in commitment of several visitors who have been visiting for a couple of years now and have not become members. Pray for our witness there, for all these outreach projects, and can also pray for a second missionary, for a couple of new church plants that we would hope would be planted in other cities in Romania, especially now that we seem to have a core group, a few families that are that want to have a Reformed church in their city. And specifically can pray for a few projects we have in 2022. We hope to publish Augustine's book on predestination, although it's not 100% according to Reformed doctrine. It is arguing for predestination, and it is also arguing for a salvation that is not based on our merit, on our good works. So we hope to publish that because the Eastern Orthodox, they are culturally inclined to listening to the church fathers. And the Eastern Orthodox Church hates Augustine more than anything, but he was a bishop of the undivided church. So what we are saying about predestination is not something new. It's what he also argued back then. So we hope to use this book to reach out to the Eastern Orthodox people. We hope to have a conference in 2022 on ethics, discussing about our situation in a country, in a continent that's living after Christianity has ended, really, as a social factor, as a shaping factor of life in Europe. We have many Muslim people coming. We have all these new laws from the European Union. Our Romanian society used to be more traditional, but that is also changing, so we feel more of that. So we hope to look at ethics and provide an opportunity for people who have dilemmas, who have questions about what is happening, and to share with them the gospel. And we hope to organize again the Reformation Europe, the retreat with the church planters in Europe, and we hope to increase the number this year, because last year we had only 14 people because of all the difficulties with COVID, but there were more who wanted to attend. So this year we hope to include even more countries, and my hope from all of these meetings is that I would learn also from the other church planters, because some of them have spent more years and they have more experience in the almost exact situation. So it is truly a great blessing for all of us to meet and to spend some time together. So please remember us and pray for us. It is very encouraging as we are there. We are a small church plant. We're far away from others. The Eastern Orthodox think we're crazy. The Seventh-day Adventist evangelicals in Bucharest think we're crazy. We're really a minority compared to everyone. Society is very secularized, so we feel like this is a difficult work, and of course the gospel ministry is difficult everywhere, but because we are away from healthy churches, from Reformed churches, we feel this difficulty even more, but we are very comforted to know that many churches here, many people here pray for us. So that is a great encouragement. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions or if there is time for questions, but yes, I was born and raised in Romania. I only spent 3 years in the United States when I attended seminary. Okay. No, it's on the western part, in the western part of the country. Um, yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. There are lots of Hungarian Reform people in Transylvania, and Timișoara is part of Transylvania. There's a mainline a mainline Reformed church, which is mostly nominal, but there are still some Reformed people there. Yeah. Yeah, I think in some sense it might be similar. Kids go to school. The difference is that most schools there are public schools, and there is not so much an emphasis on sports and other activities outside school. So it's mainly school, a lot of learning and memorizing a lot of things that you never end up really using in your life. A huge emphasis on grades. There's a lot of competition in school. All grades are public for all other kids to see. So there's that going on. So school is pretty intense. Childhood is pretty much affected by that. Basically you need the good grades to get to college, because college, again, university is mostly state operated. It's a state university, and you don't really have to pay for it, but you just need the good grades. So if you want to get into university, you need good grades, and then it means you need to spend much of your childhood memorizing things and spending a lot of time at school and a lot of homework. So yeah, there's a lot of that happening. And then kids, I guess, are pretty much into online things and gaming and just like everywhere. So we are working on teaching our kids the catechism, so that they have a clear understanding of the Christian faith. But our children, the children of our church plant, also face and will have to face even more when they grow up the fact that we are such a small minority. So we are trying to equip them to be able to deal with the society that's around us. Well, it takes maybe 16 hours of flying and layovers to Romania, but otherwise, yeah, that's great. If you want to visit, we've had some visitors over the years, and that's great encouragement. And pretty much everyone in Romania understands English, so you can just get by with the English language. So we have some nice parts that people can visit. So it's not the best tourist destination in Europe, but I think we have something to offer. Yeah. Okay, thank you.